Hey everyone, this is Corine, your favorite radio host, your only radio host and favorite girl, of course, broadcasting to you from the lovely island of Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean on Between the Lines. And you know how we do it here on Between the Lines, always with gratitude or thankfulness. I am so thankful to be here above ground, seeing another day. It's beautiful here. It's a bit overcast, but it's beautiful nevertheless. I am thankful to also have a handsome young man next to me, Jeremy Minor. He says I'm doing this to make him feel good, and it's working. Can't you tell?
There you go. There you go. You're just buttering me up now. Trying to,
Oh,
I gotta take
softening.
that, I gotta take that as a compliment. My kids say I'm pretty boring, so I'm gonna take all of that as a nice compliment. Thank you so much.
Boring is
I
not in
know.
correlation with handsome. So
Well,
you can be
okay.
boring and
So
handsome.
I can be boring and handsome. Okay, maybe that's a good compliment too. I'll take
It
it.
is. It is. It is. Boring and handsome goes together.
I like
Yes.
it. I like it. Well, I'm excited to be on your show. That's awesome. I appreciate it.
It's great to have you on. And we are talking today about closing more sales in less time. I don't know why we would need to know this, but we are talking about it. Closing more sales in less time. And let me tell you a bit about Jeremy. Jeremy Minor is the chairman of Seventh, let me pronounce that properly, Seventh Level, a global sales training company that was ranked number 1,232 of the fastest growing companies in the US by Inc. magazine's list of the top 5,000 companies in 2021 and has been featured in the Wall Street Journal during his 17 years. Clearly, he has a thing with seven, right? During his 17-year sales career, Jeremy was recognized by the Direct Selling Association as the 45th highest earning producer. It should have been 47, but 45 is even better. And later down, as you know, as we do on my show, we're going to feature his website and anything else that he would want to showcase. He has a wonderful Facebook group that he wants you to join for you to benefit from closing sales in less time. Jeremy, welcome to Between the Lines.
Corinne, thanks for having me on your show. I appreciate all the nice words, and let's see how we can help your audience possibly.
Of course, closing more sales in less time. Now, first to begin, we're in a pandemic. Let's put it in a context.
Sure.
We don't know if the pandemic is going anywhere, but let's kind of go back a little bit and come up forward and move ahead. So we're putting it in a context. Sales has diminished tremendously for a lot of industries. Some people were not prepared for the pandemic, clearly, and we don't know if they're still prepared or not. If they have put things in place or they're still grappling with just to spell the word COVID and pandemic. So, right, they're
It
still
all, it
grappling
all, it
that.
all kind of depends on what country you live in, depends on how bad the pandemic is in these days. But
This is it,
you're definitely right. It depends on
right?
what country you're in. Yeah.
Right? So, and there are some industries or companies that have thrived, saw an opportunity in this pandemic, and have actually been doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So, closing sales in less time in that context, for those companies or industries that are struggling, let's look at those, because the ones who are doing well are clearly, they probably might not need our help, or probably they do. They may still need that strategy to be able to know how to be more efficient
Hmm.
and effective in their approaches.
Sure.
So, help us out here. How do we close sales? And first to begin, people don't like the word sales, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Make it sexy. Make it
Yeah. It
sexy,
all.
Jeremy.
Well, I think one thing that we all have to understand is that if you really think about what selling is, let's start from this premise.
Right?
Because if I say what's the first word that comes to your mind when you say sales or selling, that word for most human beings, whether they're in selling or not, is going to be pushy, sleazy, manipulative,
Demanding.
demanding,
What do you
aggressive,
want?
assuming, right? Now, if I
Yeah.
also say, what's the first image? There's a good book that talks about this by an author, Daniel Pink, called To Sell is Human. And he has a survey that talks about, like, if I asked you, what is the first image that comes to your mind when you hear the word salesperson or sales? What's that
Hmm.
image? The number one image is used car salesperson, like in this weird suit. That is the number one image that comes to most people's mind when they hear the word salesperson or sales. Okay. So we have to, now there's a reason why that is. And I'm going to suggest that it's actually the way most salespeople have been taught how to sell
Mm.
that actually trigger that way of thinking from your potential customer. So we have to come back to the premise of what selling actually is. I was doing a virtual event for a company a couple weeks ago, and they asked me, like, if you could describe sales in one word, Jeremy, what would that one word be? And it took me about 10 seconds. And I said, really selling in one word can be described as change. Selling is about one thing only, and it's about change. I mean, if you really think about it, right? It's about how good you are at helping your prospect view in their mind that by changing their situation, that means paying for your product or service, is far less risky for them than them doing nothing at all, staying in the status quo. Their problems stay the same and nothing ever changes, which is actually more risky. So whether your prospect wants something better or they're trying to get away from pain, it's all about one thing, and that's about change. Now, I want to just a disclaimer here. Here is your problem. Most human beings in general do not like change, even though they say they do. So selling is about change, but humans do not like change. Okay, so what do we mean
True.
by that, right?
True.
Why do we not like change? Because it makes us feel unsettled. It makes us feel uncomfortable, especially when it's initiated by some pushy salesperson that's ready to pitch their product or services within the first 10 seconds of meeting somebody. Human behavior, this is my background, the boring guy, shows that we value something that is consistent, something that is familiar to us, even if we don't like it that much, compared to something that is new to us or unknown. Think about like the battered spouse syndrome. They don't like their spouse. They keep getting, physically abused, but they keep coming back because they're familiar with that, even though they don't like it. Okay. So just overall. So one thing we have to realize is that you are not selling the thing. You're not selling the thing. You're selling the results of what that thing does for that prospect. Okay. So if you're a real estate agent, you're not selling a home. You're selling the results of what that home does for them. Maybe it gets them into a safer neighborhood. Maybe it gives them more status in the community. Maybe it gives them more bedrooms because now they have 6 kids instead of 3. That's what you're selling. If you're selling life insurance, you're not selling them a policy, an insurance policy. You're selling them the results of that financial protection when one of them passes away and the rest of their home is in financials all taken care of. You're not selling cybersecurity to a bank. You're not selling them a software. You're selling them the results of what that software does, which protects the identity of your customers. That's what you're selling. So we have to learn that selling is about change, and we have to get our prospects, we have to learn the right questions to ask to our prospects to get them to view in their mind that is way less risky for them to purchase what you're offering to get them what they want compared to this for them to do nothing at all. The problem stays the same and nothing ever changes. See what I mean by
Love that. Love that. And I love when you talk about the imagery, because that's the first thing, the imagery. What do I perceive when you come with sales? And what immediately comes to mind is a sales department. You know, you have the marketing department, the communications department, the sales department, um, research R&D, all the different departments. So if sales have that negative connotation and imagery associated with it, the man with the briefcase, the suit and the tie,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
how can we soften that
How can-
approach? How can we soften that imagery, that perception in people's minds, even to change the name of the department? If
Yeah.
you had that power,
Mm.
superpower, Jeremy Minor,
Yeah.
super minor,
Yeah.
what would you call a sales department instead, so that when persons come to your business, they're not getting sales department, salespeople, sales?
Yeah.
What would you call it?
Well, instead of a sales department, we would just relanguage it. We wouldn't call yourself a salesperson. It depends on the industry. You know, we might call you an account executive if you're in B2B sales, rather than a
Lovely.
salesperson. I don't even like to use the word consultant now because I think it's
Yeah.
so overused. Like if you have
It is.
consultant on your thing, it's like, okay, I'm a salesperson. So it's relanguaging it, business executive,
Love that.
new business development. I mean,
Love
it
that.
means the same thing, but you're relanguaging it where it doesn't trigger sales resistance. I think one thing that we have to start getting into our mind, because here's one thing that we all have to understand. Everybody that's listening on here, even if you don't have a sales job or you get paid a commission, it's still in sales.
It is.
Everybody in the world is out there trying to do what every day? We're
Yeah,
trying to
sell.
persuade. We're
Yeah.
trying to influence. We're
Yeah.
trying to convince. We're trying to move others. There's a term that's called non-sales selling. Like even if you don't get paid a commission, okay, you're still out trying to move others. So I'll give you a few examples. If you're a business owner, because I hear business owners all the time, oh, I'm not in sales. Oh, really? You're not in sales and you own the business? Look, if you're trying to get your employees to follow your vision of where you want to take your company, what are you trying to do? You're trying to persuade, you're trying to influence, you're trying to move others. If you're an employee on the flip side and you're trying to convince your boss to do what? Give you a pay raise. You're trying to persuade, you're trying to influence, right? If you're an attorney trying to convince the judge that your client is innocent, what are you trying to do? Influence, persuade. If you're a politician trying to get people to vote for you, you are trying to persuade, you're trying to influence. If you're a stay-at-home mom trying to, teach her kids, how to clean up the dishes or whatever.
But even to get a job, Jeremy, you're selling yourself when you're going for that job. It's the same thing. You're constantly, if I want to attract a guy or a guy want to attract a girl, you're selling yourself. It's the same thing. You're always selling yourself.
Yeah, it's 100%. I mean, it's been around since the dawn of ages. A lot of people don't realize that persuasion has been here for before any of us were even here on the earth. Like if you believe in the Bible, you look at the Bible in the book of Revelations, it talks about how there was a war in heaven, right? There was this war, a great war in heaven, and part of God's children chose his plan, and
right.
part of the people followed Satan. Well, if you really think about the war, think about what the war means. Was it a war of guns?
No.
Did they have swords? Did they have tanks shooting each other? No,
Didn't
it was a
have
war
that.
of persuasion.
Yeah.
It was a war of words. It was a war of influence. So persuasion and influence have been around since the first human beings were even put on this planet, if you really think about it. That's why it's so important.
And they were not wearing suits and they didn't have briefcases back then.
That's right. we don't know. We don't know what they were wearing. For sure.
Well,
Maybe
true.
nothing. They were wearing nothing. I don't know.
Well, that was enough persuasion, Jeremy. Anyway, so closing sales in half the time. Coming back into the context of the pandemic, how can you help persons? What strategies can you help persons to be more efficient and effective in doing what they were doing before, making that change? Let's use that word, making that switch, that mindset shift, that paradigm shift, into doing things more efficiently and effective.
Well, I think the first of all, let's start here, and then I'll give you maybe some sample questions. I think that's probably that might help the most. I think, in our day and age, we have to become what we talk about a lot of this when we're training organizations and just individual salespeople in large, selling anything at this point. So you have to learn how to become what we call a problem finder and problem solver, not a product pusher. Okay. Now, any book behind me, any of these books that are on sales behind me will talk about that you have to be really good at solving problems. You have to be a problem solver. Everybody's been saying that for 50 years. Okay. And that makes complete sense. But if your prospects don't buy from you, then you can't really solve their problems. So in our day and age, we call that the information age buyer, right? That has information access right at their fingertips with the power of the internet, especially social media. They know they have many choices to choose the exact product or service that you sell. So because of that power that they have now that they didn't even have 20 years ago, a lot of people they're just not going to go along with being manipulated or pressured because they know they have many choices to choose. 20 years ago was completely different before social media and the internet, right? So we have to be, in our day and age, we have to be much better at problem finding. And that means learning how to ask the right questions, but at the right time in the conversation that helps your prospects find problems in their mind that they didn't even know they had. Okay, one thing we have to realize, let's say we get on an inbound sales call, somebody books on your calendar, or let's say it's an outbound lead where you're calling somebody that's, responded to an ad. It doesn't really matter. It could be even a cold call. It doesn't matter. Most of your prospects, when you first start talking to them in any sales conversation, I don't care if it's business to consumer sales or business to business sales, doesn't matter. Most of them do not realize they even have a problem in the first place. Or maybe they do realize like, okay, I know I have this problem, but they don't really know how bad that problem really is. Or maybe they don't understand the consequences of what will happen if they don't do anything about solving that problem. Now, once you learn advanced questioning skills, and anybody can learn, okay, if you're taught by the right people that know that, okay, you're not only able to help them find one problem, but you're able to help them find maybe 2 or 3 or 4 other problems that they didn't realize they had. And when you're able to help them see how many problems, not by telling them, because that's going to go in one ear out the other, but by asking them the right questions that allow them to tell themselves what their real problems are and how they're affecting them and what's caused the problems, that starts to get the prospect to view you as like the expert, the trusted authority who's going to get them the results they want, because no salesperson has ever got them to think or question their way of thinking that's allowed them to stay in that same situation. Now, what are most salespeople? Like when we go in and train companies, like we've go and do audits with Fortune 500 companies. And most salespeople, even in those companies, because they have just billions of leads, so it's all a numbers game for them, most salespeople are still taught to be what we call product pushers. Okay. They're taught to ask a few consultative questions about the needs of the client, like, John, what's 2 problems that keep you awake at night? Or Sally, can you tell me what solution you're looking for? Or Jim, what's your budget for solving this problem? And these are all just surface level questions that are just going to give you surface level answers of what's really going on. They're just never going to really help the prospect get emotional about their situation. Okay. And then what happens at that time? Most salespeople go into their sales pitch. Okay, talking about the features and benefits of their product and the service and how they have the best this and the best that, which, by the way, every single company and every single salesperson says they have the best product, right? How many salespeople?
Without a doubt, Jeremy, everybody. I'm like, really? They even bombard my email. I'm like, but what?
Let's be real, right? Let's be real. Like, how many salespeople or business owners tell you they have, I've got the 5th best product in the market? Nobody does, right? Yeah. They all claim to be the best. So when you say things like that, just like you said, Corine, it actually triggers in your mind that you don't trust them as much, right? You can see that. It triggers doubt and uncertainty and a lack of trust because you're used to every company and salesperson saying
telling you the same thing,
right?
Yeah.
So it's like taking a bucket of mud and throwing it up against the wall, hoping and praying that something we're going to say is magically going to trigger the prospect to magically want to buy from this. And we call that hopium. It's a drug that so many salespeople, it's a drug. It's hopium, right? Mm-hmm. Salespeople and entrepreneurs on this drug called hopium, where they just hope and pray that something they're going to say in their pitch deck is going to magically cause the prospect to want to buy. And it's such a hard an unpredictable way to make a living in sales, or if you're the business owner, very hard to scale your company. You see where I'm at there? So we have to become really good at problem finding and problem solving. Now, what you can do, and I'll just give you kind of an example here. I know we don't have a ton of time, but you want to ask what are called consequence questions. Now, there's a lot of other different questions
that's interesting. I like that.
But
I'm going to mute myself to focus on that.
So one good form of questions you want to learn are called NEPQ, Neuro Emotional Persuasion questions. And these are consequence questions. And they're typically asked towards the end of that first maybe discovery call. And it depends on if you're in a 1-call close or a 2-call close, or maybe you're in a more of a B2B sell environment where it's multiple calls and touches. But you're going to ask different consequence questions throughout that sales process, where basically it gets them to question their way of thinking of allowing the problem and situation to keep happening. Okay. So I'll give you a generic example. This is not industry specific. And then I'll give you like maybe an industry specific one or two, so you can kind of see how it works. Okay. So I might say, now you wouldn't ask this at the beginning of a conversation. This would be more towards the middle to the end. Okay. Okay. But what if you don't do anything about this and you repeat back the problem? Okay. But what if you don't do anything about this, repeat the problem, and it keeps happening for the next 3, 6, or even 12 months from now? Like, what happens then? Now, I'll give you an example of this. I was just working on a company's sales structure we're writing out for them, and they sell lead generation services to like Fortune 1000 companies. They're a big lead provider, sell like higher quality leads and more volume of leads to companies for their salespeople. Okay. So a consequence question for that's more industry specific would be like this. Okay, hold on though. Like, what if you don't do anything about this? You keep getting these lower quality leads that you mentioned to your salespeople, and your sales keep stagnating another 3, 6, even 12 months from now. Like, what happens then? See, that gets them to think of what the consequence will be if they stay in the status quo and nothing ever changes. When they start thinking of the consequences, that emotionally gets them involved in gaining urgency on wanting to do something now, not down the road. Okay, so those are called NEPQ consequence questions.
Love that. The consequence. Yeah.
And if your audience wants to learn more about those questions, they're always welcome to go to that website I gave you in the Facebook group.
I am going to bring it up right now.
Yeah, we don't mind. Like, they can join that for free. We don't charge anything for that. It's salesrevolution.group. Yeah, so just go to salesrevolution.group. And right when they join, somebody on my team will tag them. So checking your DMs on Facebook, they'll tag you a free training called the NEPQ 101 mini course. And it's a list of different questions you can ask in different sales situations you're going to be in, whether you sell B2C or B2B. Just that list right there is going to give you some different examples and questions you can use to go out and sell more today. So they're always welcome if they want to get a list of just a few of those questions for sure, because we don't have time to go through everything today. They're welcome to join the group for free for sure.
Awesome. So besides this, because this is a join group, the Facebook group, I do believe you have a website. You want to give it to me that if they want to go and visit?
Yeah, the easiest place for them to join the Facebook group is www.salesrevolution.group. So salesrevolution.group. And
that takes me back to the same page.
It'll take them right into the Facebook group. That's where they're going to get the most resources from us. If they want to learn more about what we do, we give away some free resources. We go live in the group about 3 to 4 times a week with different trainings, different Q&As, different subject matter. So they're always welcome if they want more of those questions to go there for free for sure.
Oh, awesome. So I'm going to keep that up for a minute so that persons can see where they need to go.
Yeah, salesrevolution.group. It's going to be the easiest just to put them on that website. Yeah.
But closing more sales in less time. You mentioned about this whole consequential thing, but there are some people that they're so overwhelmed, Jeremy, with what they're facing, even the consequences, while it's shocking and up in their face, because they might not even see a way out. They might be like, I prefer to just shut down the business. I've done it for so many years. I've benefited from it. I could just either sell it, pass it on, or just give up and start something new.
Well,
what do you say to that?
You definitely could shut it down. It's your business. If there was a way, though, that you could learn skills to be able to scale that business and get rid of X and Y and Z, is that something that could be of possible interest to you?
Mm.
It's just a way to reframe the question, okay, depending
Yeah.
on what
Yeah.
they're saying. Now, in that conversation, it's going to be a lot different because, you're going to start off by asking connecting questions and situation questions and problem awareness questions that help them see what their real problems are and the root cause of the problem and how the problems are affecting them.
Yeah.
So usually you wouldn't even get a question like that.
There are two things. Sorry for cutting you, Jeremy. There are two things that I noticed that have grown. Just my observation. I don't know if you have noticed it. PR and communications, which is an industry I am in, and sales.
Yep.
And sales coming in the same renaming, as you call it, business development, account executives. I am seeing that when you watch the job descriptions or what they're expecting, it's sales. They want somebody to, or customer service reps,
Sure.
go there, generate sales, bring in business, bring their own contacts, generate revenue for them.
Yeah.
Those are two areas that I've seen growth in tremendously.
Sales is always
Why
going
do
to be
you
there.
think?
Because
Yeah.
sales is always going to be there. If you don't have sales, you have no business. You have no
Yeah.
economy. Like everything is sold. Every product and service has to be moved.
Yeah.
Salespeople will never be replaced. Like people have been saying salespeople are going to be replaced for 100 years with different technology. When the phone came out, and, 100 years ago, they said salespeople were going to be obsolete. It just made salespeople more effective. When the internet came out, people said salespeople were going to be gone. It just made them more effective. Like you can't have an AI bot. Maybe they can sell a $5 product or a $50 product or a $100 product. But if you're selling $1,000 products, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, $1 million products, you can't have an AI bot that does that. It's just not realistic.
Well, I was wondering because the way how they're talking AI is like they're going to replace me and you, Jeremy. We wouldn't even we would be robots, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it could replace salespeople that sell $5 magazine subscriptions, but it's definitely not going to replace salespeople that are out there selling 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, 500,000, $1 million products or services, because you're not going to have an AI bot that has the skill to pull out people's emotions to get them to actually move forward with big purchases. You just won't.
I'm going to take you back. I'm going to take you back a little bit. When they started bringing in automated response on the phone, I was like, "What the hell? I don't want to. I don't want to talk to a machine. Press 1, press 3, press 5. You want to talk to a human being?" I'm like, "Where is the human?" And they're older folks, much older than me, and even the younger ones. People just generally want to hear a human voice.
Sure.
And as much as they try to have the AI with a human voice, or they ask a human to record it, you want to speak to a human being. So you're wondering, how could you totally replace us or automate us out of what, humankind?
You'll be able to replace some customer service, but you're not going to replace high-end products and services that are sold. You just realistically won't, because people, like human beings, do not make buying decisions on logic. They make them on emotion. Brain studies show that 100%. Like there's no debate on that. It's just behavioral science one-on-one.
That's right.
An AI bot is not going to be able to do that on high-end services and products. It's just not realistic.
Yeah, yeah. As we come down in the final minute or two, Jeremy, what final words? What are some action steps that you would want persons to take as they listen to this? I mean, besides what they see on the screen here right now, where it says join group, what would you want people to take away from this?
Well, I think, like I said, we have to look at ourselves as, if we want to be able to, no matter if you're in sales or not, if you want to move people, if you want to persuade and convince and do it in a way where the prospect starts to pull you in rather than you push them, because we all know if you push prospects, they're going to do what? Push back. It's just human behavior 101. So you get a lot of rejection, you get a lot of objections. So if you want to eliminate objections, if you want to eliminate pushback, you need to learn skills as a sales professional, as a coach, as a consultant, as an entrepreneur, whoever you are, to you need to learn skills that work with human behavior rather than against it. Okay. That trigger the prospect to want to engage and want to open up to you. I mean, you really need to get rid of the commission breath. That's what we need to do, because one thing we have to understand, this is just behavioral science 101. This is my background in university, is within the first 7 to 12 seconds of any sales interaction or call you're involved in, your prospects are subconsciously, we can't even help it as a human, picking up on your verbal and nonverbal cues from your tonality, okay, and what you are saying and or asking that triggers their brain to react to you in one of two ways, okay? Now, if you come across in a conversation aggressive or needy or attached, that's the big one, and you don't know the right questions to ask, it actually triggers the human brain to go into what we call fight or flight mode. Everybody's heard of that, but we don't understand why it's triggered or what to do if it is triggered. And that's where the prospect tries to get rid of you very quickly. Like, oh, we already have somebody for that, or we're good, or we're not interested, or sounds good, just call me back in a week, a month, a year later. And it's like they try to get rid of you, right? Now, once you learn how to use human behavior in your sales process, okay, and you come across neutral on the call, like you're unbiased, you're not quite sure if you can even help yet because you don't know enough details, right? You come across more calm, and you come across especially detached, and you know the right questions to ask in the tonality, it triggers the brain to become curious enough where they want to engage with you. They want to open up to you because they feel like you might have something that could be important to them. So we have to learn, Corine, the biggest thing is we have to learn how to become detached from the expectations of making the sale, and instead really focus on whether there's a sale there, like whether or not they have problems we can solve. Now,
Or if they're the target audience, if they are all right audience.
Well, do I mean when you get on a call, you should make a sale? No, hell no. Your goal is to make a sale on your calls and interactions, but you have to keep that to yourself. You have to keep that internal, because the moment your prospects feel like you're just selling to them is the moment they start to emotionally shut down, and you're going to get a lot of objections, which you can prevent most of that from happening.
Awesome. Jeremy, we spent a fabulous 30 minutes and a little bit more, just a little bit more. I took advantage of you.
I feel honored.
A little bit more talking about sales. And I think we have kind of broken it down, softened the approach, that persons don't see it as being pushy and more about understanding the dynamics of what they're going through and to try to provide a solution that can work for them. Thank you, Jeremy, so much for spending the time with me on Between the Lines. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome, Corine. Like I said, if they want a list of more of those questions, just have them go to that website, salesrevolution.group. Look in your DMs. Somebody on my team will just tag you a course called the NPQ 101 mini course. We give it away for free when people join. So they're welcome. If they want a list of some of those questions to help them, they're welcome to join that for sure. Thanks for having me on.
All the best.